Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This video I'm going to conclude all Replit generative AI tool related information. So this is gonna be the final video in this Replit generative AI tool series. So we previously covered three topics on the same Replit. So the purpose of Replit tool and what are its pros and what are its use cases, and then where you can use them and what kind of scenarios it's gonna give better information, and which kind of scenarios it is giving more good results. And similarly we created one app and then we given demo for that app in one of the other video. So if you are directly watching this video, I would recommend try to go ahead and watch other two videos which we already generated in this Replit generative AI tool. And today we are going to cover the cons of this Replit AI tool, and then along with the limitations this tool what it is having, I'm going to cover this video. So let's just deep dive into this topic. So so this is the Replit tool. I was logged in with my Gmail account, and it's a kind of they're gonna give what I would say some few credits initially. So I've already used all those free credits. That's one con for this specific tool, since it is not openly given for every developer with as an open source. When I say open source, it should be a free of cost where you can utilize it whatever the way that you can utilize it. So but this tool is not given that kind of version. It was having some credits. If you already cross that limit of that free credits, you have to enable their subscription plan, and then only you can able to access all other remaining features. Not only this, even some other integrations tools that we previous video covered, right? When I say integrations, right, some kind of tools what we discussed. So all these integrations, some of the tools are being supported only in the subscription phase. So I was just going with the other con. So we already covered one kind of cons of this application. And other con I was going to tell is like I was given instruction while generating this application, specifically the tech stack. Okay, this is what the tech stack I want to build my application, the Finance Pro app application. But whatever the specification I've given, is it created with that technology stack? Let me show you that answer what it is given. So it is saying it is not created with the tech stack, because this is what the tech stack I was requested: Angular, Ionic, Node.js with NoSQL database. But what it is created, so let me propose an alternative solution using available technology stack, which means it has been limited with some technology stack. It can able to generate an application with the given natural language instruction, while it is converting into as a requirement to an application kind of tool. It is gonna limited with the technology stack. So it is gonna only provide the solution based on only the available tech stack. So that's where it was being recommended some kind of a technology for me. So that's the reason it is not actually directly enabled with whatever the technologies that you have. So you might have n number of languages, right? Every application has been built based on scenario to scenario, use case to use case. They're gonna use a different technology to build the application from front end and then back end and between the infrastructure of the application, and then coming to the API and to connecting to the database and then getting the information, and then doing some kind of code operations. These all are usual process that we're going to do. So it was not having that flexibility for supporting all the technologies. Like you want to build an application with some rare technology, this might not going to be helpful. So it has been generated the application with a different kind of information. Let me just go to one of the package.json, right? So why I was going with package.json, because it's a kind of TypeScript project and it has been running the application. So that's the reason it should have some kind of libraries to fetch and then run the application. That's where I'm just going with package.json file, where we're gonna add all the dependencies required to run this project. If it is a Java project, you might see the similar kind of information in your pom.xml file in M1. Similarly in Python also, you're gonna define your project build structure and all that in a specific configuration. There you're gonna say, hey, I need these kind of libraries to run or execute this project. So those kind of setup will be there, but in this specification of this project, you can refer package.json, and this is kind of technology it has been used. So okay, for UI it has been used React, and that's where it is using Radix UI. It's a kind of library to do some kind of UI component building. Similarly, it was been using, I would say, um, These are all regular React related components on that library. But other than that, I'm just going to cover what kind of other things it has been used. And then express and express session is going to be having creating your API services. For that, it is used Node.js supported express and express session kind of information. And obviously, you'll have other this is another tool, I would say, for CSS kind of animation and all that. I know it was being used, this Tailwind CSS animate, and then other related supported libraries also. And then coming to dev dependencies, I'm not going to take care of it. That is not our agenda of cons, but this is what I just want to give. And for connecting to the database and all those things also, we have dependencies here itself. And in the app, if you have been went through the previous video, in the app we've seen several calculations that was doing, right? So and along with that, it has also given some kind of recommendations which kind of option which is going to be suit for you, because that is what I was given as an instruction in the agent mode. If we are just going with it, this is the kind of big requirement that we given. Based on that, the application has been created. So let me just go with some kind of example. It was using some mock data. So this is another biggest concern, because I was been asking at the time of generating this application, try to use any GPT kind of LLM, and then try to fetch the live data all the time whenever an application refresh, right? So this data has to pick the realistic data, but it was not created the application in that sense, because it was not having that integration mechanism, or else maybe in the free trial mode it was not having that kind of flexibility given to me. Similarly, to connect with an LLM, you may need an open AI key if you want to connect with chat GPT-4 kind of model, LLM model. So those kind of details, it was not been taken. That's the reason it can't able to fetch the live data based on every refresh of the application. All the time it is going to give the same information. Only at the time of generating the application, it was taken some realistic data, and based on that it was being created some kind of mock files. This is also another concern I am seeing. It is not going to be uh, up to the mark what you expected of, to generate an application by giving only plain instructions, because it was having some limitation over there. Okay. And then I was also asking about authentication as well. When I say authentication, right, you may have to log in with your mobile number, or you can also give your Gmail, and with that authentication you want to continue or sign up the member. So that kind of sign up registration, again, it's a kind of restriction. It can't able to do that process. Or else, let's say if you are been allowing mobile based authentication, after entering successful mobile number, you should have been maybe want to have an OTP based identification, and thereafter you can successfully register the member to your application. So those kind of flexibility does not been extended, because it was not having that API capability, I would say. Similarly, or else the tool integration capability it was not having at this moment. So those kind of things, it was to be matured. But let me also show you some interesting factor. This is one such thing I was not actually like this tool. Reason behind is like, let's say you want to have some kind of API information and you want to invoke that, right? And even generating the query and all that, it was using some kind of or random libraries which is not up to the standard, because you when you want to connect to a database, you have to use some standard library, right? But it was using some freely available connecting tools, which are that too limited. With that tools only it can able to complete your task. That's another biggest problem. Similarly, for financial calculations, whatever the financial calculations that we are seeing, right? So these are the logics that it was been using. So which means sometimes it may not gonna be accurate all the time, because it was not taken all the information automatically. Some kind of information it is taking, have 100 by 12 and then multiply by 12. Some, I mean, I would say calculators obviously don't need much fancy logic, but it was taken some random logic and that applied that logic, generate investment allocation. This is how it has been generated, the investment allocation based on my instruction. So take your available amount and then go to sixth factor, 60th factor of it, and 60th percentage of it, and then use that for mutual fund. Similarly, for gold, consider 16% of margin, 14% of your available amount to use that margin for FD, and equity just use 0 point. Because these are the random information, it was picked at the time of generating an application. It was also internally connecting with an agent and fetching that data and applying that formula here as a random way. That's I would say it's okay, but it was not completely realistic all the time, because it may gonna be vary, right? It depends on situation and the market demands and market fluctuations. You may gonna change your priorities, right? Mutual funds, you may not gonna use 60% of your allocation, because this thing will be, changed based on, market fluctuation. Sometimes maybe mutual funds might be on the higher side of investment, and the recent times maybe, people are might be recommending, gold you have to use as a investment strategy compared with other, investment strategies. Kind of way, the strategy is gonna be not static all the time. So it should be dynamic, but it here it has been generated as static. So it's another con. So, and then let me just going to cover other interesting factor. I'm just going with UI also. These are all the regular components where it has been using for generating the application. That's okay, because React, whoever know this React technology, they can be able to understand, what kind of libraries it was having. And then let me show you that database related information also. Just a second. Server and then DB, I'll just go with both of them. Okay, under server, I'm just going to the root section where it is having all the roots. So generally, are we going to write these many number of roots in one single file? No, right? That is not an usual standard where we're gonna develop an application, because we're gonna follow some solid and dry principles, and then we're gonna segregate the logic in a reasonable way, which kind of code sets under which kind of file. Similarly, you're gonna segregate that functionality and then, arrange them into the right place. But here everything has been mixed up and then created under one single file, which is storing all the information. It is, not even like, it's not performing very well, because as I said, it is not following all the solid and dry and other, coding principles while generating the code. It's just giving a pseudo code kind of thing where you can kickstart, but thereafter you have to went through a deeper side of it and you have to make changes thoroughly, or else you have to give more number of instructions to agent to apply the solution in a better way. Similar way in storage also. So this is a kind of pojo kind of interaction, I would say, where you are connecting with a JSON object kind of structure where you are connecting to your database. So those kind of database related information, how you are storing the information and how you are fetching the member based on email, it's kind of things. It is again, I'm seeing it's a hard coded kind of thing. When I say hard coded, it's not hard coded, by the way. It's programmatically connecting to the database, but I would say there's a tight bonding over there, because database tightly connecting with the code storage. So that's the reason generally these kind of principles in architecture side, we're going to avoid them, and we're going to just hit an API and then fetch the information, and we are not going to make any kind of this kind of hard mechanisms in any kind of place. So those kind of things, it has to be matured a little bit. That's also another, concern I'm seeing. So this also has to be improved in this specific, replit maybe in the future versions. uh, and then other interesting factor is like, whatever that I've given, right? To run this project, as I said, it has been set up with node modules. Node modules in the sense, any node supported package manager, which can be, downloadable kind of libraries can be available in node modules, whichever that you mentioned in package.json, that can be available. And while you are executing the application, building the application, this node modules get installed in your machine, so that all supported libraries to execute your application will be in place. Another the interesting part is like, this deploy also, they are just giving a private host kind of capability, and it can't able to run if you are been using it after a few number of days. Or else if you have a paid version, you can even deploy it, but you have to host this specific application into their host to having whatever the code that is been generating, it has been limited to the technology stack what they have internally been maintaining. Let's say you want to move this application into a different place and you want to extend these capabilities, you have to do some kind of another extra effort. That's also another concern, to deploy it into your own cloud server, and you have to make some kind of tweaks. Let's say you want to connect with the serverless architecture AWS side, so you may have to do some kind of tweaks, and it supported libraries only how to build the application, but it has not been built like that. They have some internal tools, based on that only the coding has been generated. You have to make some kind of changes on top of it. And you want to push your git code, that's another good advantage, I would say, maybe instead of con. So you can even connect to your git repository, and you can, play this code at any time, even in locally cloning that and then having this code updated and then checking the functionality in local. So that's all about the cons, because this tool is not matured at, and it was not following all the architectural principles while generating the code. It was not even generating the standard way of doing the code, and it was also technology restricted. You can't able to generate a code based on a different language based on your need. And it was also not having any kind of good capability of easily moving this generated application into any different cloud infrastructure, but you have to apply some additional changes on top of it. Similar way, if you want to build an application, even running this application in locally also sometimes gonna make some kind of complexities, because of the internal tools and libraries it was using, that may not gonna support your OS operating system also. Let's say it was been considering Linux as a operating system, and based on that it was taken some kind of system libraries, but that system libraries accessing the system libraries may not gonna work for your Windows. Similarly, it may not gonna work for Mac. Those kind of complexities also I've seen while I was running this application in my local machine, because mine is Windows. So you'll have a similar kind of problem with Mac also, because it has been running internally with the Unix Linux box kind of machine. So those kind of challenges have still been there, but where it is gonna creating good results is like, where you have a thought and you want to see that how that application is been building, at least on a high level, because you want to convey your regular instructions to any new person. This is what my thought process on my application. So you can't able to convey all the aspects, but while you giving these instructions to this kind of tools, Replit generative AI tool or Lovable, so you'll definitely give a better information to your client, saying that hey, this is what my requirement, and with this requirement I was expecting an application. And even you can also went through that application nitty-gritties, and you can extend the capabilities as well. So that's it all about this cons. And then I was ending this generative AI Replit AI tool related specification in this video. And coming video we're going to discuss Lovable. It's another generative AI tool, how we are going to generate the application. This is one kind of demo I was just showing on a high level. The similar finance tracker application, whatever the instructions that we given, the same instructions only we are also giving to this Lovable tool. And with this Lovable, after giving all this instruction, this is what the application it has been generated. So it was having all the similar kind of options. We'll also gonna we'll go through nitty gritties of it in the upcoming Lovable video. What are its advantages and then pros and cons, as like how we covered for Replit. We're going to cover the similar thing in going forward as well. Thank you so much, and please do like, share, comment and subscribe.